here. And then to share. Can you see my presentation? If you can open the microphone.
Perfect, Claudinha.
Thank you very much. I insert in the chat the link. If you didn't register before, please do this for us. And if it's possible to insert on chat your name and the country that you live or for where you work, okay? So first of all, I want to say thank you for Suran to invite me to this challenge because I live in Brazil. My language is Portuguese and not English. So I say sorry if you cannot understand some words, but I have many friends here that can help me. Okay, and I want to say thank you to Roberto here and Scarpin from ACD from South America that we have the possibility to use the Zoom to insert more people here and to share our experience and to connect with people from all the world, okay? So let's start. I saw that Suran talked for us a little bit about the idea to share this kind of experience. Of course, this is this kind of video have a focus for the people who is trying to enter in the silver panel, but it's a possibility that everybody can come, listen, and discuss with us about some themes, some important themes. And during the COVID pandemic, the International Sport Consultants Agents had a beautiful idea and asked for many people who works in athletics and who lives athletics to share experience. So this kind of video conference inside the Facebook of the ISCA agents, we can see many interesting themes too, okay? So this presentation happened yesterday in French, and it will be in Spanish tomorrow. We need to think that we have different time for each language and for each theme, okay? So let's see if I can continue. Some guidelines for today. It's important to keep the microphone on mute. If you have any questions, I ask you to insert on chat. You can discuss between you during the chat, but I ask if it's possible to make questions related to this topic about jumps, vertical and horizontal jumps, because we will have many other video conferences about other themes, and answers in chat we can resume at the end of this video, okay? Like I told you, this is about jumps, and Suran presented me before. I decided to start with some situations about the questions first, and I will not answer for you. Why not? Not now, okay? But if you stay with some doubt at the end of this video conference, we can return on these situations. Usually I say that the same situations that we live in our life in athletics, sometime after we live the same situation, and the answer that we do for the situation is different, because each situation is different. Even the same answers was done for us, because there is many situations involved that can change our answer. Because of that, when we are talking about a test, it's very important that you say what's the situations involved that do you answer like that, okay? Think about this. Well, the first situation that we want to share with you, but this is a question, and not the situation lived on some special moment in my life, but it happens. A long jump competitor, some athlete in long jump, takes off, but with part of his foot touching the ground to the left-hand side of the board. So when you are looking something right in a test, it's very important that we see something that make a difference for our answer. And this part, we are talking about not the completely outside, but part of his foot touching the ground to the left-hand side of the board. His foot is, however, completely behind the takeoff line. If it's beyond, it's another answer, okay? But I will not say if what we need to do or not, but what is your decision? If you are the judge with the flags, white or red? Another situation. A certain athlete is 7th after the first 3 trials in the long jump competition, and we are talking about a final, okay? And we have 6 trials. His 5th trial is considered as a failure for clearly taking off beyond the takeoff line. The athlete seems to argue that someone moved of his run-up markers after his 4th trial. He wanted an extra trial. And you are the referee. So this athlete will ask you another extra trial, a substitute trial, in fact. So what will be your decision? Just to think about now, okay? Situation 3. A triple jumper after the step phase lands in such a way that his foot is completely outside the lines, delineating the runway. You are the referee. What will be your decision? Imagine that because this answer or this situation is not completely right. So if we have here, if the judge show a red flag here and you are the referee, what will be your decision? Imagine that we are talking triple jump. We have a hop, a step, and a jump. And here, after the step phase, before the jump, he lands in such a way that his foot is completely outside the lines that delimit the runway, okay? Another situation, an athlete in the high jump clears the high at 185 and goes for his hit in the 110 hurdles, saying that he's passing the next high of 190, but he returns when the bar was on the high on 2 meters, and the jumpers are at their second attempt at this high. He wants to continue from this high. You are the referee. What will be your decision? So the situation, in fact, is talking about that he was in more than one event at the same time. He, after his jump in 185, he goes to the 1100 meters, and he asked to restart at 2 meters. But when he come back, 2 meters had started, and it was in the second attempt. What to do? Let's see another situation. An athlete in the high jump again clears the high at 185. Oh, sorry. No, it doesn't change here. Yeah. The athlete was the last jumper remaining at the high 195. in her last or third attempt in this high, she cleared the bar to the jubilation of the capacity crowd. Imagine the stadium, wow, yes. But she, after cleared the bar, immediately the white flag went up, and meanwhile the jumper got up to acknowledge the cheers and jumped off the landing mat and under the crossbar. In this process, she accidentally knocked the bar off the supports. Quickly, the judge, holding the white flag, and changed to red. You were the referee. What is your decision? So imagine she crossed correctly the bar, but when she is going out from the mat, she touched the bar and the bar followed down. Another situation. Just let me here better. With 30 seconds left on the clock, the athlete asked about the position of the uprights, and when told they are the plus 55 centimeter, he wants them to move to plus 65 centimeters. The chief judge tells him that there is not enough time left to move. Just a moment. Peter, thank you. So the chief judge tells him that there is not enough time left to move the uprights, and the athlete goes and jump, but fails. The athlete complains to you, the referee, because he asked to change from plus 55 to plus 65, and the chief said no, because he has just 30 seconds. What will be your decision? And just as the clock begins its 6 seconds countdown, the athlete asks for the uprights to be moved from 65 centimeters. The judge immediately begins to do so, but the bar falls off. The chief judge tells the judge to replace the bar and then tells the athlete that the clock will be restarted again from 60 seconds countdown, and he can begin his trial. Several of the other athletes complain to you, and you are the referee. What is your decision? So imagine that situation 6, say something. We have a different situation 7, and we are talking about the movement of the uprights. The first thing is we can move or not during the time of the athletes. And if something happened, what to do during this movement, okay? And another situation, when we are talking about uprights in world athletics competition, in a competition that we have a good infrastructure, that is easy to change, it's easy to move, and sometimes we have some situations different in our competition, specific competition, okay? But imagine that we are talking for this case when we have a good structure and we are talking about big events. So, like I told you before, I won't answer this. I will talk to you about the rules. That is very important to understand. And during some of these considerations about the rules, maybe you can decide if you are not sure about the answers of these situations that I told you. And at the end, we can open, if we have time, to some other questions about jumps. Of course, if you see some rules that we are talking about here, and you have some situations interesting that you have doubts, please insert on chat. I'm trying to insert people who ask to enter, and I'm seeing my presentation, so I cannot check and chat. I will ask help from Suran, from Elena, if you can help me about that to answer them, or after in the end of the presentation, okay? So, general condition about jumps. Thank you, Suran. Warm up. Warm-ups, sometimes people think that it's in the rule that we have just 2 attempts for warm-up and we stop. If the number of the attempts for the practice trials, if it's not in the regulations of the competition, the time and the number of practice trials that we have prior to the start of the competition, the event, the athletes can do coordinated by the judges, how many attempts, how many practice trials that they can do if we have time. So it's not that vision that no, they can do just 2 and then we stop and stay 10 minutes doing anything, okay? Markers. Athletes may use 1 or 2 or any one markers during jump competitions, but they cannot use more than 2 markers during jumps. And markers are placed alongside the runway and not inside, okay? When we are talking about long jump, triple jump, and pole vault, because the marks cannot stay inside the run because the athletes run on this place, okay? Except, of course, in the high jump, and the markers usually is different from high jump than another jumps. Each marker shall be comprised of a single piece and usually provided by the organizers. If they not provided by the organizers, the technical delegate or the who is responsible for this competition will approve or not the use of some marker, okay? But when we are talking about big events, we have markers provided by the organizers and we need to use these ones. And when we are talking about single piece, it's very important to understand that some markers are a single piece but constructed. I don't know if you can see, but imagine I have two papers that I put together and now they are one. So we are not to be like that and no, I need to cut this and use just one part, okay? But it's a single piece, like a roll mark. And remember, no mark, 1 mark, or 2 markers, okay? Not more. And we are talking about jumps. If such markers are not supplied, adhesive tape may be used, but not chalk or similar substance, nor anything which leaves indelible marks. Please, some people love to use pen and mark the track or the runway. No, we cannot do this, okay? But the adhesive tape, it's a good solution, including a mark, official mark. Sometimes we can use a mark, a tape, this adhesive tape, put the name of the athlete and the mark at the same place. Because if we have some situations that we lost the mark, we have the tape there, okay? Some marks, official marks, don't have pins to fix the mark on the runway. And this is the worst possibility that we can have because it's easy to lose these marks, okay? Sorry about my camera. I don't know if you were seeing, I'm a little bit crazy. I'm really crazy, but this image is more than me. So the judge shall directly the relevant athlete to adapt or remove any marks not complying with this rule. If they do not, the judge shall remove them. What this paragraph means? They can use until 2 marks, but if they insist that they need to use 3 or 4 or 5 marks, that sometimes it happens, especially in the pole vault. Until now, the rule says that they cannot use more than 2 marks. And we ask them, we repeat them that maybe during the practice trials they can use, but they need to decide to use these marks just until before the start of the event. If they don't remove, we will remove them, okay? Just a moment, okay. Oh, sorry. For pole vault, here, the organizers should place suitable and safe distance markers beside the runway at each 0.5 meters between the points 2.5 meters to 5 meters from the 0 line, and each 1 meter from the 5 to 18 meters point, okay? So we can see many marks alongside the runway of the pole vault. And it's easy because the coaches can see more marks about the evaluation the athletes during the attempt and can help them better. About windsocks, we can have windsocks, one or more, and these socks should be placed in an approximate position in all jumping events. Vertical or horizontal events, we need to have socks to show the athletes the approximate direction and strength of the wind. If you have some, if you imagine where this windsocks needs to stay, usually we put alongside the runway and close to the place that they do the takeoff. We can have, for example, in the high jump, after the mats, after they can see from right or for left side if they do the run from this side. The competition order and trials. If an athlete, by their own decision, makes a trial in an order different from that previously determined, we can use the application of the competition rule or the technical rule that says that we can make a yellow card or something different. And in the case of a warning, the results of the trial, valid or failure, will stand. What this rule says? Well, I don't know if somebody here in some time ago or still is an athlete, but when we are in a competition, we are very anxious. And sometimes he thinks that he is the athlete that needs to go. Maybe he talk in a language that he cannot understand anything. He never compete with a big scoreboard. Sometimes they show the number and not the name, and he doesn't identify himself and goes. If the athlete do this, we will consider this trial. If it's a valid, we will measure, we will insert the result. If it's a failure, we will consider as a failure. And we will check what happens with the athlete, but usually we can give oral advertence or a yellow card because of that, okay? If there is a qualification round, there shall be a fresh drawing of a lot for the final. So the competition order during a qualification is 1, and after the qualification round for the finish one, it will be a fresh drawing. Where athletes are competing in more than one event, like one situation that we talked before, the referee may alter the order within that set of attempts. So if I'm in a jump and I go to another event, a throwing event, a track event, doesn't matter. And I'm the first one of some attempt. And I came to this attempt, and we are talking about high jump, for example, and I need to consider the first attempt. But in the 202 meters, for example, I return. Everybody is jumping in the first attempt. I was the first one to jump, but I'm not here. So we can change and put this guy at the last one in the first attempt in 2 meters. But when I come back, if everybody finished the first attempt and started second attempt, I cannot jump this, and we will see what will happen when I'm not here at the end of this attempt. Where athletes are competing, I change this. In competitions of more than 3 rounds of trials, an athlete may only be allowed to take a trial in a different order in the rounds before the final round. No change of order is allowed for this reason in a final round of trial. Imagine we are in a final, and we have a final event, okay? We are not talking about a qualifying round. We are talking about a final of jumps. And this final, we have 6 trials. So the final round is the 61. If you are talking about a final that have just 4 finals, this final round is the 4th one, okay? So during another round of trials, we can change the order until the end of this attempt, okay? In all field events, except for high jump and pole vault, where there are more than 8 athletes, each athlete shall be allowed 3 trials, and the 8 athletes with the best valid performance shall be allowed 3 additional trials, unless the application regulations provide otherwise. Why I put this unless the applicable regulations provide otherwise? Because we have many rules, but for each competition, some things I decided before. So if we have something in the regulations, of course, they cannot give more advantage for the athletes against the rules, but can have less. For example, if the regulations don't say anything about the number of the trials in final events, in the field events, we will have 6, okay? If anything appear in the regulation of some event, we will change the order after the first 3 trials, after the 3 attempts. So we don't change again. But if the regulation says that we need to give the reverse order after the 3rd attempt and after the 5th one, we will do, okay? The competition order for any subsequent rounds of trials shall be in the reverse ranking order recorded after the first 3 rounds of trials, of course, like I told you, unless the applicable regulations provide otherwise. And one thing more about the 8 athletes with the best valid performance, because if we don't have performance, they cannot go when we have more than 8 athletes. We will see a result sheet after to understand better this part. When the competing order is to be changed and there is a tie for any position, those tying shall compete in the same relative order according to the original draw. Of course, we need to take in mind that we have in any event some kind of rules that we need to check to see if we have a real tie, okay? If we have a real tie and we have for the next 3 trials or the last trial, if we reverse order after the 5th one, for example, and these guys are in a tie, we need to use the same order that we used before. Where there are 8 athletes or fewer, so we don't have 9, we don't have 10, no more than 8 athletes in an event, each athlete shall be allowed 6 trials, unless the applicable regulations provide otherwise. If more than one fail to achieve a valid trial during the first 3 rounds of trials, such athletes shall compete in subsequent rounds of trials before those with valid trials in the same relative order according to the original draw. So here we have 2 situations. One, you can see that if some of them, when we have 8 or less athletes in an event, all of them with mark or with not can go to the last 3 trials. Different than we saw before. Let's say that if we have more than 8 athletes, just the athletes with the best 8 valid performance shall be allowed to the additional trials, okay? Let me see. Okay. Absence during competition. Just reinforce that if they don't have a valid trial, we use the same thing that we will do if we have a tie. If they don't have mark and we need to do a reverse order and we have more than one with no mark, for example, they will compete in the last 3 trials at the same order of the start list, okay? Absence during competition. An athlete may not leave the immediate area of the event during the progress of the competition. Nobody can go out and I don't want to play more or something like that, or goes out, I finished my trial, the competition is still running because we have some athletes that didn't finish the last trial, but I finished, so I'm going. No, he just can go with the permission to do this and accompanied by an official. If possible, a warning should be given first, but for subsequent instance or in serious cases, the athlete shall be disqualified. And why, if possible? Because sometimes the athlete runs and you cannot see the athlete, but after we can, if it's a serious instance, we can give, for example, a disqualification or a yellow card that we need to show in the result sheet. This should normally be organized in such a way as to not require a change in the competition order. It's another situation. We have an athlete that really need to go to the bathroom, for example. This is a situation. And we need to understand the situation of the athlete. But usually we do this without change the competition order. Remember, the change of the competition order happens when one athlete are in both events at the same time. They have more than one event happening at the same time. And here is not the case. The athlete's just on this event and he wants to get out. And if it's possible, we will ask him to wait for his attempt, or after if we have time, he goes and then come back and do at his time. But of course, like I usually say, this is the rules, and we are the referee when we are working like referee, and we need to judge situation and situation. Okay. If as a result an athlete is not present when his or her name is called, the trial would be deemed as a pass. And here we come back about that situation when one athlete went to do another event and come back. So if we finish, for example, I change the athlete, the order in the first trial of the 2 meters in the high jump, for example. he was the first one in the start list, but I know that he was in another event. So I change for the last one in the first attempt of the 2 meters. But he was not here. So we call him, he's not there, we give the time, and if he's not present until the end of this time, he will not receive a cross, he will receive a pass. And it's very important because a pass or a cross can be a big difference for him in the results, the final results of the event. Not for the horizontal jumps or throwers, but in the throwing events, but for vertical events, yes. Because of that, the rules say that would be deemed a pass. Here is not nice to see because I copy from a quiz that ABRAAT is an association in Brazil that we do some quizzes about some situations. Sorry, it's in Portuguese, but we have 2 situations. We have here the number of the athletes, the start list, for example, number 1 until 9, okay? So the 1 until 9 is more than 8, and we have a difference. But if you see number 8 presented for this event, no, it's a DNS. DNS is did not start. We have many situations that we can use for use DNS. One of them is he was confirmed, something happened, he didn't go through the call room, and we received just 8 athletes. So if we have just 8 athletes, what the rule says that we will consider an event like this, we will give the possibility of the last 3 trials just for the 8 athletes that have better performance, who doesn't have mark cannot do the last trials, or the correct one is the result sheet B. What do you think? Put on chat A or B. I usually say when we are discussing between us, this is the moment that we need to say something wrong or to discuss about it, because when we are inside the event, we will have different opinion and we can decide better about that, okay? So in the case that we have a DNS, in fact, we have just 8 athletes in the event, and the rules say that if we have 8 or less athletes, all of them have the last 3 attempts to do. But see, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 athletes that don't have mark. Here, the result is no mark. And what we need to do about the reverse order? We need to do the reverse order for the athletes that we have marks. So the best one until now will be the last one to jump. And the worst one will be the first. But look, the worst mark is a mark. And who didn't have mark? It's worst. So the first one to jump will be number 2, number 3, number 5, or number 7 in your opinion. I cannot see the chat. Please do this there. And remember, when an athlete don't have a mark and we need to do the reverse order for the last 3 attempts, and we have 8 or less athletes, who is in a tie or who doesn't have mark needs to do the next attempt, the 4th attempt, at the same sequence of the start list. So the first one to jump is the athlete number 2, okay? So we can use this here to check times, for example. I not answer now, we will see in a moment, but remember, this guy, number 1, in the first attempt of the long jump, how many times we need to put in the clock to start? We are a judge that we need to manage the clock, and we need to know how many times each athlete has. For long jump and triple jump, it's usually easy to do, unless we have a consecutive trial. But usually we have just one kind of time to do, okay? But think about. And this is another situation. Remember, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 athletes. It's not a different. It's the same that we discussed in this one, that we have 9 in start list, but in fact 8 athletes. And here the same situation, okay? And about the result sheet, what we need to do to show people what is happening or what happened during an event. When we are working with the electronic result sheet for some competition, or if we are going to a secretary of the event, or if we need to fill in a paper, we need to show what is happening with this standard abbreviation. Some time ago, Brazil says something. If we have an athlete that don't have mark, use some abbreviation in Portuguese, and USA used another abbreviation because he says in English. Nowadays, who use the World Athletics rules use the same abbreviations that we have here. And it's nice to check. DNS, it's a did not start. So we're talking about fields. So this athlete could go through the call room, enter to the field of play, do some practice trials, but something happened. He decided not start. So he, in fact, did not start. Sorry, somebody is with the microphone open. When we have NM, it's a no valid trial recorded. So, like we saw in the result sheet before, if we have X, or pass in some of them, but we don't have a real marker recorded, we need to do in the result no mark, NM. When we have some situations and we decide that this athlete is a DQ, it's very important to understand that on the result sheet we cannot just put the Q. We need to put the Q followed by the applicable rule number. If it's a technical rule, we say TR and the number of the rule. If it's a competition rule, we say CR and the number of this rule. Okay? When I'm in the high jump and pole vault in vertical jumps, we have a valid trial. So the athlete crossed the bar correctly and doesn't do any other fail. So it's a valid one. We have a circle or a letter O. When this athlete have a failed trial, it's an X, a letter X. We can use X for vertical and for horizontal jumps. If one athlete in field event says, I don't want to jump this attempt, so it's a dash, it's a passed trial. If one athlete during an event hurt himself, happened something, and he cannot continue, we use lowercase letter r. So if I'm in Brazil and the competition is happening in Mauritius Island and it's online, alive, I see an R, and it's a Brazilian athlete. I know that this athlete cannot continue this event, so I know that finish for this guy. Okay, it's very important for us to understand that if somebody put a pass trail, somebody who is doing the announce, for example, is always waiting what will happen with this athlete after. If we have an R, everybody knows that this athlete stopped on that moment for some reason. Maybe I don't want more. For example, in the first event, some athlete got the world record and he decided to stop. He can, okay? The letter Q, the caps lock Q, it's the abbreviation of a qualify by standard in field events. For example, when we have a qualifications events and we have a standard for go to the final, and this athlete got this stand, the result sheet needs to show the Q in the caps lock. But you know that until 12, we use prepare a final. So we have just 6 athletes in the qualification round that got the stand for go to the final. We will call the next best 6 athletes to go to the final. So we will insert the Q in lowercase, okay? So this is a difference. When I saw this result, I know that some athletes got the standard and some went after, okay? If something happened during an event, this athlete couldn't got the qualification standard to go to the final, but the referee decided that this guy needs to go to the final. So you see, and you need to write the Q, the lowercase letter Q, and letter R, a big one. It's not the lower one that we talk about. The bigger R is about the referee. So the same case, if something happened and the jury of appeal decide for this, it's a QJ, like you can see in this screen. When we have a yellow car, is very important as the second yellow car and the red car to insert after these abbreviations the number of the rule. Well, imagine that we have many symbols and we can understand all the event just using the symbols, okay? The completion of trials. When some athlete finished the attempt, when we can show the white or the red flag for him. For vertical jumps, we can see many situations that can decide that he failed. For example, he start after the time he could, or he touched the mat and use this for jump and cross the bar correctly, for example. So if he do something that is against these rules that you can see on the screen, it will be a yellow one. But if he do everything correctly and crossed the bar and the bar stayed on the pegs, so it's a white flag. If this athlete decide to cross the bar, under the bar, and of course if we are not in doubt, because if the bar is still moving, we can consider as a failure if, in our opinion, the bar will be followed, okay? But if everything's okay, but the athlete in the moment are going out from the mats, touch the bar, and the bar goes to the goes down, or if he touches the uprights and then the bar go follow down, the jump finished, so it's a white one. So I think we got one more situation that we talked in the beginning. About horizontal jumps, once the athlete leaves the landing area in accordance with technical rule 30.2. When we are talking about vertical jumps, we have a mat and we have a bar. After cross the bar correctly, we finish the jump. But in the horizontal jumps, we need that the athlete get out from the landing area, and we will consider that he's getting out when he touches outside the landing area with the first foot that touch outside, okay? It's not with a hand, it's with a foot. The judge shall not raise the white flag to indicate a valid trial until a trial is completed. The judge may reconsider a decision if they believe they raised the incorrect flag. What this means? Some time ago, we have, for example, in triple jump, one pair of flag in the takeoff, one pair of flags in the hope and step and jump, and another pair of flags in the landing area. So people who doesn't understand about athletics saw that it's a red flag in the first instance. So during the runway between the takeoff and landing area, another judge showed a white one, and in the landing area, we have another white one. So they say, oh, it's a good one because we have two white flags and one red. So it's okay. No, now it's recommended that we have just one pair of flag, and this judge or this equipment, when we have some technology, we need to show the light just after the completion of a trial, okay? To show if it's a red one or a white one, if it's valid or not. And of course, when we use a flag, or if you use some technology that show different colors, and we see, oh my God, I put the incorrect flag, we can change. And now it's specific in the rule, whatever we could do. Qualification round, the conditions for qualifying, the qualifying standard, and the number of athletes in the final shall be decided by the technical delegates or by the organizers if no technical delegates appointed. So if the qualifying standard for go to the final directly is 8 meters, in the long jump, for example, everything, we will have just 6 athletes in the final. If we will have 4 trials, no, 4 trials in the qualification, no, we can't, because it's more advantage for the athletes. So imagine, we can change many things, but not that give more advantage for the athletes. For competitions conducted under the paragraph 1.1, 1.2, about, well, these numbers of paragraphs, we are talking about the big events, the international competitions. In the international competition definition, there should be at least, so we are talking now about this big one, at least 12 athletes in the final, unless otherwise provided in the regulations for the competition, okay? In a qualifying round for the high jump and pole vault, the athletes not eliminated after 3 consecutive failures shall continue to compete according to the technical rule 26.2. You don't need to know about the number of the rules. If you need to fill in the result sheet, of course, you can consult the rule book, but for some exam, you don't need to know the number of the rules. You need to understand the rules. And here, it's important to understand that these guys can continue, including passing a trial, until the end of the last trial at the high set as the qualifying standard. So he got the qualifying standard. But I want to do another one. I'm in a good moment. I want to go with the bar a little bit more. No, he can't. He got the qualifying standard. He cannot. And about the horizontal jumps, I got my the qualifying stage standard, but I want to do more 2 attempts. I got the qualifying standard in the first attempt, but the qualifying round, we can go until 3 attempts. And I got in the first one, but I want to do the second and the third one. No, you can't. You need to stop. Sometimes we decide in the technical delegations or the organizers says to us, the referees and the team that we work together, after he got the qualifying standard, you can ask for this athlete, he wants to stay inside or he can go out. Sometimes what we received information is, no, after got the qualifying standard, this athlete needs to go outside through the mixed zone. So we have these combinations before, and we will do what is necessary to do about these situations, okay? And once it's determined that an athlete will be in the final, they shall not continue in the qualifying round, okay? And sometimes we have situations that before the last high in a qualifying in the qualified event, if we have 12 athletes, if we have 14 athletes, the technical delegates can check with the referees inside in the qualifying events that we can finish, we can stop, and all the 14 athletes can go to the final. So we can finish before, okay? But if we are, for example, the qualifying standard is 2 meters, but we have 12 athletes qualify in 1:90, for example, we will stop the competition on that moment, okay? Continuing, if no athletes or fewer than the required number of athletes achieve the preset qualifying standard, the group of finalists shall be expanded to that number by adding athletes according to their performance in the qualifying round, like we talked before. In the case of the last qualifying place, imagine we usually at least 12 athletes to the final. And here we can see that in the case of the last qualifying place, if 2 or more athletes have the same best performance in the overall results of the competition, the technical rule needs to be applied. And we need to see, for example, if we have in the long jump, the best jump of these 2 guys is the same. And at this moment, they are the 12th. And the second best attempt of these 2 guys is not the same. So who has the second best will be to the final, and another one is the third one, the 13, okay? And sorry about my English again. When a qualifying round for the high jump and pole vault is held in 2 simultaneous groups, so at the same time, because we have 2 different kinds of qualifying round. Sometimes we have 2 poles to do, 2 runways for long jumps, 2 poles for high jump and pole vault, for example. And when we have this kind of a situation, it's nice about the vertical jumps that the bar be raised to each height at the same time in each group. So if we have 2 referees, 1 in each group, these referees usually talk to each other. Oh, I have just 3 guys here. Oh my God, I have 7 in this high yet. So the another one will be to go a little bit lower, slow, in a slow motion to got at the same, okay? Remember, sometimes we have athletes that need 3 attempts to got a high, and sometimes they need just 1 attempt to got that high. And because of that, we have some delay in some pulls, but it's nice to have the same because of that situation. If we didn't go until the last standard qualification standard, maybe we can stop the event before to have the finalists. And about the time, we have 2 kinds of tables. One to the individual events and another one to the combined events. Usually, when we are talking about combined events, we are talking until about the jumps in this case, okay? So high jump and pole vault is jumps. And this is the difference here, because in the individual events, we have a different time for one athlete and consecutive trials. About combined events, we have the same time when one athlete is alone or if it's a consecutive trials. Other events, and we are talking about the horizontal events, we have just 1 minute when we have more than 3 athletes, when we have 2 or 3, but we change just if we have some situation that one athlete needs to do another consecutive trial. The consecutive trial usually happens when we have a substitute trial, for example. Okay, so in this case, we will have 2 minutes. And for high jump and pole vault, it's 1 minute when we have more than 3 athletes. And we have another thing. Imagine we are talking about Duplantis, and everybody finish the pole vault, and he will start now. And he decided to go to the 5 meters and 30, or 5 minutes, 5 meters and 90. This is the first attempt in the event. So on that first attempt, he will have just 1 minute, even he is one athlete inside this event at this moment. If happens something and he have a fail jump, the another one we will consider. If he's a pole vault, we have 5 minutes for him if he's alone. If he's not, if we have more than 3 athletes, if we have 2 or 3 athletes, we will consider a consecutive trial if he will be the consecutive trial. Okay, so for high jump and pole vault and other jumps, we will have 1 minute for everybody. When we have just 2 or 3, 1 minute and a half for high jump and 2 minutes in pole vault. For one athlete, 3 minutes in high jump and a big 5 minutes in pole vault. And consecutive trials, 2 minutes in high jump and 3 minutes for pole vault. Of course, when we have combined events, we exclude this line. We don't have this one, that 3 minutes for high jump and 5 minutes for pole vault. And we will consider the same time of consecutive trials and 2 minutes for high jump when this athlete will be alone, and 3 minutes to pole vault when this athlete is alone in a combined event. Okay. Except for consecutive trials, no change in the time limit shall be applied until the bar is raised to a new height. Imagine we have 5 athletes in a high jump, for example, okay? So this is the last attempt for 2 meters. This failed, this failed. Now I have just 3, I need to change the time? No, we have 5 athletes in this high, and we will consider the same time for everybody. So now I will have the same time that I have for everybody. I have 2, I will have the same time for everybody. He lost, we have just 1 in this high. He will have the same time as everybody in this high. When we change the bar, at this moment, we will review how many athletes we have inside a high jump or pole vault, and then if it's applicable, we will change the time, okay? That a yellow flag should be raised by the relevant judge when 15 seconds is left for a trial, and if a visual clock is available, this is still required. What it means? We have a clock, so the athlete can see the clock, and we don't need to show the yellow flag. No, we need to show the yellow flag. Sometimes the organization and its approval that they will use another technology, but it's necessary to be very clear for the athlete that he has just 15 seconds to do this attempt. Because of that, we will show the yellow flag when this athlete has just 15 seconds. So imagine we are talking about 1 minute. So the clock when show the 15 seconds, we will show the yellow flag and still rise until finish the time or until the athlete finish the attempt, okay? If we have a big 5 minutes, I will show the flag when we have 4 minutes, 45 seconds after the start of the clock. Of course, the clock show the moment it start with 5 minutes and finish with 0. So when we have 15 seconds, we will show the yellow flag again. When only one athlete who has won the competition, see that when this guy won the competition, this one athlete remains in the high jump and pole vault, and this attempt is a world record or a relevant record for this competition, the time limit shall be increased by 1 minute to those set out above. Okay, so imagine I have one athlete, he has 5 minutes, but he is trying to do the world record. So he will receive 1 minute more, and we have 6 minutes. Oh, but I have two athletes. I need to give 2 athletes 2 minutes. I can use 3 minutes for them. No, because here, when only one athlete is trying to do the world record, okay? About wind measurement. In all major competitions, we are talking about big ones, wind measurements should be undertaken for each trial in long and triple jumps competition. In fact, in all the competitions that we usually work, we do that. Whilst the wind reading does not have any effect on the validity of a trial within a competition, wind measurements is important for records and other statistical purposes. Okay. I think we will have another slide, and I will talk about the wind gauge. The referee should ensure here the correct placement of the wind gauge for long and triple jump. We need to consider the takeoff line, and we will put the steel tape and put the wind gauge on 20 meters from the takeoff line. This wind gauge can stay until 2 meters from the runway. We need to check if the information about the set, about the side of the run, we need to check if it's in a correct way. And the height of the part that is used to measure the wind. Imagine about the weight of the lanes on track is the same. We will put in 1 meters 0.22 high, okay? The operation of the gauge is for 5 seconds from time the athletes passed relevant point, and it's different between long and triple jump. So we need to check, if you are the referee, we need to check many things in the sector. But when we're talking about the wind gauge, we need to check if the wind gauge is from 20 meters from the takeoff line. After this point, we need to put a cone, for example, or a mark more 20 meters, because when the athlete that we need to check to measure the wind, when this athlete cross this point 40 meters from the takeoff line, we need to start the wind gauge when we are talking about long jump and triple jump. So the wind gauge will be at 20 meters from the takeoff, and after this point, more 15 meters to put the cone or the mark, because in triple jump, when the athlete cross this 35 meters from the takeoff line, we will start the wind gauge for make the measurement. But some athletes don't use so many meters to start run. And on this case, if she or he runs less distance, when this athlete start to run, we start the wind gauge. About replacement trials. If for any reasons beyond their control, an athlete is hampered in a trial and is unable to take it, or the trial cannot be correctly recorded, the referee shall have the authority to award then a replacement trial, or to reset the time either partially or in full. So we need to judge some situations. For example, we had a situations, and it happens. Because of that, a protocol is very, very important. But in a big events, it happens too. I can use one example that happened in Cali. One athlete during a qualification round did an attempt. The judge put the prisma, and the person who is working with the measurement do that. Well, after see on the equipment, stop and do that. And the judge inside the landing area understood he finished the measurement. And this person goes outside the landing area, and the measurement was not done, in fact. So we lost because the judges that was cleaning the landing area did it before this guy said, I don't have the measurement. So it's necessary to give another trial for this guy. And he have another situation that I can talk in another moment. But hampered in this case, if somebody cross in front of this guy and he couldn't do in a correct way, or we have many situations in the high jump, because many athletes start on track and we have many track events. And in this case, sometimes we stop the clock and restart, or in some cases, we restart from the beginning this clock. No change in the order shall be permitted. A reasonable time shall be allowed for any replacement trial according to the particular circumstance of the case. In cases when the competition had progressed before the replacement trial is awarded, it should be taken before any other subsequent trial are then made. So using the same example that I told you about Kali, on that time, we asked to this guy that he needed to do a substitute trial because that one we couldn't check. So he wanted to do after everybody on that attempt, and we said not, he needed to do on that time. This is a consecutive trial. So we need to change the time of this attempt. And long jump or triple jump is 2 minutes if we have a consecutive trial. Change of order, let me check here. Yes, change of competition area or time of the competition event. The referee may change the place or time of a competition if, in his or her opinion, the condition justifies such a change. When we have a big rain, if we have a big, strong wind, but I'm talking about a big one, such a change should only be made after the completion of a round of a trials, when it's possible. So if the rule says that, the change of or the restart, we need to have this rule in mind. If the conditions make it possible to complete a round of trials before a change of a place or time is made, the technical delegate, through the referee or referee, should normally void those trials already completed in that round of trials, always depending on and evaluating the conditions and the results of trials up to the time of the interruption, like I told you, and recommend the competition at the beginning of that round of trials. Note that rules specifically state that the change in direction of strength of the wind are not alone sufficient reason for such a change. The wind alone is not a problem, but a big, a strong one that everything is going with the wind, it's not a little wind, because this rule exists. Because sometimes the athletes and the coaches ask to the organizing committee, no, the runway is on that side and we prefer that side. It's possible after the first 3 we change the side. No, we cannot. And we have a rule that says about that. About extraneous forces. When it's obviously that the bar has been displaced from its supports by a force other than, that associate with an athlete, the following procedures should be followed. If the displacement occurs after the athlete has cleared the bar without touching the bar, the trial shall be considered successful and the white flag raised. If the displacement occurs in any other circumstance, a replacement trial shall be awarded. Okay, because we don't need to give another attempt if the athlete was successful. Ties. Except for high jump and pole vault, we need to use this rule. If they are tied for the best result, we need to check the second best. If the tie still exists, we will see the third best performance and do that until it's possible. But if it remains a tie, it will be determined a tie. Even for the first play, when we are talking about horizontal jumps, except in vertical jumps. In the case of a tie of any place, like I told you, the tie shall remain. But we will talk about this tie or not a tie in vertical jumps. Maybe someday this rule change. We don't know. Placings, but until now, we need to have this in mind. Placings. If 2 or more athletes clear the same final high, the procedure to decide the places will be the following. The athlete with the lowest number of jumps at the high lasted clear shall be awarded the higher place. If the athletes are equal following the application of this rule that I have read, the athlete with the lowest total of failures throughout the competition up to and including the high less cleared shall be awarded the high place. If the athletes are still equal following the application of these both rules, the athletes concerned shall be awarded the same place unless it concerns to the first place. And here it's easy to understand. Imagine that we have these athletes and this is the high of the bar. Fanny got 178, so the best high is this one. Greta, 188. This is the best high. Heidi, 188. Inez, 178. Julia had 3 falls and no mark. He didn't have any mark, so no mark. Kim decided pass and in 170 and decided to start 174, but she failed. And Kim said, no, I don't want one more attempt here. I prefer to go to 178. And she failed the first attempt and she failed the second attempt. So she has 3 consecutive fails and finish the event for her here. So no mark. Liu, 188 and Mina, 178. No mark, no mark, no place. Here we don't have a specification in the rule, but usually we have a dash and we need to decide about the other places. It's very important to check how many athletes we have to recheck if we have all the places here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 marks. So I will have 6 places. Let's see. The best one is this one. Why Liu is best? Because she needed just 1 attempt to do the best high, and Greta and Heidi needed 2 attempts. So I have she as the first one in this event. But Greta and Heidi needed 2 attempts in the best high. What I need to check, how many fails each one has during the event until the best mark they have. These fails I don't need to check, okay? Just from there to here. So 1 and 2, 2 falls. 1 and 2, 2. So they are tied and it's not for the first place. So this is second and second. They are tied. And next place will be which one? The third one? No, it will be the fourth one. So we have 1, 2, 3 athletes that have place, but the first place, second place, and the another one will be the fourth one. We have another one is 78, 178, 178. Okay, here he needed 3, he needed 2, and here 1. So he's the fourth one. This is the fifth one, and this is the sixth. It's okay. Imagine here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are talking about the high jump, and everybody has 1 minute to do. 1 minute in this case, 1 minute in this case, 1 minute in this case, this, and this, independently of the number of the athletes, okay? But here we have many girls doing this, many athletes, so no problem. Here, 181, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 athletes, 1 minute for everybody. And in 184, we have 1, 2, 3. Put on the chat how many times do you think Greta has to do this attempt? How many times Heidi has to do this attempt? And Liud has to do this attempt? I usually say, when we are inside an event, it's nice that we have this cheat together with us. If we have 3 athletes and we are talking about high jump, we have 1 minute and a half. And let's see if we have something. Everybody, no, this is another one. I think this, it's okay. Placings. About placings, the rule 26.8.4 says that if it concerns the first place, a jump-off between these athletes shall be conducted in accordance with a specific rule, unless otherwise decided either in advance according to the regulations applying to the competition or during the competition, but before to start the event by the technical delegate or the referee, if no technical delegate has been appointed. So it's nice if before the event we have this information. If we don't have this information, a jump off maybe can happen. Why maybe can happen? Because even if you don't have this information, during the competition, the athletes can decide not to do the jump off, and they can be tied, including for the first place. And it happens during the Olympics. They were tied until that moment, and our friend George Salcedo asked of them if they wanted to do the jump off, and they decided not. We want to be the first place together. If no jumps off is carried out, including where the relevant athletes at any stage decide not to jump further, the tie for first place shall remain. And even if the athletes start to jump off, but in any time decide, no, we will stop, they will be a tie, okay? Of course, we don't apply this for combined events, because when we are doing the jump off, we use for high jump 2 centimeters more or 2 centimeters less, it depending what happened during the jump off. And for when we are talking about combined event, in the high jump, usually no, always will be in 3 centimeters, but they have another kind of competition. So if we have jump off, kind of a jump off in this event inside the combined events, we cannot do the jump off in this case, okay? Just for combined events. Result, each athlete shall be credited with the best of all their trials, including in the case of high jump and pole vault, the individual one, those achieved in resolving a tie for a first place. We will see a cheat. It's nice to see that. Athletes concerned must jump at every high until a decision is reached or until all of the athletes concerned decided not to jump further. Each athlete shall have 1 jump at each high. So during a high jump, they have usually 3 attempts in each high, but for jump off, just 1 attempt. The jump off shall start at the next high determined in accordance with a rule after the high last cleared by the athletes concerned. So before the competition, we know the heights of the bar. And we need to check this, that the jump off shall start at the next height determined before, after the height last cleared by the athletes that is trying to do the jump off. If no decision is reached, the bar shall be raised if more than one athlete concerned were successful, or lowered if all the athletes fail by 2 centimeters for high jump and 5 centimeters for pole vault. And like I told you, the combined events not apply, because for combined events it's always 3 centimeters for high jump and 10 centimeters for pole vault. And it's another kind of event. If an athlete is not jumping at the high, they automatically forfeit any claim to a higher place. If only one athlete remains, they are declared the winner, regardless of whether they attempt that high. So if we have 3 athletes in a tie for first place and one decide not to, this will try to do the jump off, and this one is automatically the third one place. And if we have just 2, for example, and one decide not to do, this one is the first automatically, and he can jump or not. So here, the information that we talk until now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 athletes, 8 marks, and we need to have 8 places. We are talking about a high jump, and here the best of Mike is 2 meters, the best of Nick is 195. For Oba is until, forgot this place, okay? We are talking about until this. So Oba 203, Path 2, Q 2 meters, Remo 203, Sandy 2 meters, Tommy 2 meters. So we have for the first place, the best ones until now is Oba and Remo. Oma needed just one attempt to got 203, the same of Remo. So we need to check how many falls during the event until this high. Oba has 1 and Remo has 1. So they are tied, and this is for the first place. And we are talking about individual event. So they can make the jump off. The jump off, say, they need to use the next high after the best one of them that was previously indicated for this competition. So it was 206. And they have 1 attempt for jump off in 206. Oba failed. Remo failed. So the rules say that they fail. We need to put the bar in a lower 2 centimeters. So we need to go to 204. But Oba got it, and Remo got it in a good way. So both got 204, and we need to do the jump off yet. So we need to put the bar 2 centimeters more, and we are again in 206. So Oba tried but failed, and Remo got it in a good way. So Remo is the first place for this competition with 206, because the high during the jump off, it's a part of the event, and we need to consider 206 and not 203, okay? So this is the first, Oba is the second, and then we do the same that we did for the high jump to check the places. About horizontal jumps, the takeoff is a new way to check. Some friends from Spain says to me once that even if they don't have technology, they don't use in some competitions the plasticine. The rule says that if you don't have plasticine, we can still use a plasticine indicator. But for example, in the javelin, we don't have. So maybe in some case, and if some competitions, sometimes it's difficult to put a kind of a plasticines because in some place we don't have a real plasticines. And now we can a different way of see. This is a big challenge because this is a new and a unique event that we will have this kind of a view about, how can I say, the vertical plane. And we are not talking about touch. We are talking cross the vertical plane. Just a moment. Well, about takeoff, the use of video or other technology to assist the judges in deciding the application of this rule that I will talk about is strongly recommended at levels of competition. However, if no technology is available, a plasticine indicator board may still be used. So here we have a camera, and this is in Oregon. It's our World Athletics Championships. So we will see, but we have a judge that check this. We have a system that we have a line here in this system, including how many millimeters beyond or before this line they touch, the last touch of the athlete, that we can consider or not a valid one. And this is a technology to show if it's a valid one. In this case, they use green for the correct one and a red for incorrect one. When we use flag, usually we use a white flag. Usually no, we use a white flag for a valid one and a red for an invalid one. So this second figure, usually we use it with a plasticine, but in another degree. So nowadays, if we use a plasticine table, it's a 9th degree. So this is the takeoff line. This is the takeoff board, and this is the plasticine table. Okay. When we not use this table of plasticine, the board with plasticine, we use a board, a blanking board, to fill this space, and this is completed plane. But we will see the same takeoff line to indicate if it's a fall or not. So when we have a big events, usually we have the assistance of technology. And for example, you saw here a camera, and here people who is reading what happened in the field of play. Okay, so here we have a system that show if it's a correct one or not. And another people, see, this is the judge that is valid, using it as a valid or not. So if he decide, he first checked the takeoff board, but now he's checking the correct or not way that the athlete goes outside the landing area. Just after the jump finish, he can touch the green if everything is okay, or the red if something happened in a wrong way. Okay, so here is another kind of technology, but we will have another term about it. But this is a VDM. They can't see here the exactly point to check, but you can see more information in another video. And we have the technology to help us, including inside. Here, this guy asked, but what happened? And I could show for him what happened because the board showed this on the screen. Okay. This is different situations. This is a World Championship 2, but the room is directly in field. So we have the information here too. And summarize of main reasons for a trial begin, declare a failure in long and triple jump. They, while taking off prior to the instance at which they cease contact with the takeoff board or ground, break the vertical plane of the takeoff line with any part of their takeoff foot or shoe, whether running up without jumping or in the act of the jumping. Okay, so this is the first time that we have a rule that when break the vertical plane, and we are not talking just about touch the ground after the takeoff, but when they cross the vertical plane. I will see better in a figure. It's nice to see that way. They take off from outside either end of the board, whether beyond or before the extension of the takeoff line. But if they take off from completely outside either end of the board, whether beyond or before the extension of the takeoff line. So here we have another answer of the situations that we begin today. The employee any form or of some somersaulting wrist running up or in the act of jumping. So after touch the landing area, they can get out from the landing area doing a somersaulting, no problem, but whilst running up or in the act of the jumping, he cannot do any form of somersaulting. After taking off, but before their first contact with the landing area, they touch the runway or the ground outside the runway or outside the landing area. This is specific for the long jump. Of course, the triple jump between the takeoff and the landing area, he needs to touch to do the hop, step, and jump. Just a moment. In the course of landing, including any overbalance, they touch the border of or the ground outside landing area closer to the takeoff line than the nearest break made in the sand. Another point, they leave the landing area in any manner other than we had talked about the technical rule 30.2. When leaving the landing area, an athlete's first contact by foot with its border or the ground outside shall be further from the takeoff line than the nearest break in the sand, which may be any mark made on overbalance completely inside the landing area, or when walking back closer to the takeoff line than the initial breaking on landing. Remember, this first contact is considered leaving with the foot outside the landing. Exceeding the time limit allowed for the trial, it's a fail too, and breaching the clothing or footwear rules or the bib numbers, usually a fall that we can have in the long and triple jump. And here we have an example. It happened in the decathlon in Rio, and this is the last version of the rules, okay? We can see Ethan running. He's approaching. He touch and do the takeoff. See that the chief judge, including the ITO at that time, the referee, was very difficult to see what happened. It is the time that we have to decide when we are in field of play, and we need to decide on this point. In a big events, usually we have a video, we have a video referee that can help us, but nowadays we have a cell phone, and we have many kind of ways that we can record this kind of takeoff. And on that time, we need to touch the board of the plasticine, including we have a angle on that time. And we check with the video referee, we check with the board, the plasticine board, and we don't have any mark of this. And this is the picture. And it's very difficult to show to the public that it's not a fail. I can see when we are talking about the start on track, people cannot touch with their hands, with their fingers, the white line, okay? But they can go with their hand crossing the vertical line of the start line. When we are doing some throw, we can cross the vertical line with our hand. But these events says that they cannot touch the ground after that or a specific line. And here we are talking about cross the vertical line and not touch the ground on how they used to be. So nowadays, this is a fall. And we have another situation that the technical rule 30.1.1 shows for us. I say thank you for Geraldo from ABRAAT. I think Geraldo is here. This figure we use in ABRAAT to explain this rule and change it. And thank you, Geraldo. So here, imagine this is the point that we can see after touch the takeoff. We cannot see this moment because they are not touching the takeoff anymore. This is the same. We cannot consider this point because we cannot see the moment before. Here is touching. So we need to check if a vertical line is being crossed. If not, it's a white flag. It's okay. In this case, the foot or the shoe is touching the takeoff, and we can imagine a vertical line, and it's a real fall, including if we are using a plasticine board and we don't have mark, okay? The rule says if cross the vertical line. Here is very clear that it's a white flag because we have a touch here and very far from the takeoff line. And it's a very clear red flag because it's the moment of touch and he crossed the vertical line. Of course, when we have technology that can help us, it's easy to see. Of course, we cannot consider this moment. We need to check another image. We cannot use this moment to say. We need to see when we have the jump off, the touch of the foot of the shoes. Here, it's clear a failure, like here. It's not a failure on this figure. And here is very difficult to say, but if we consider he touched the vertical line, so it's a fall, okay? When we have a technology, and like I told you in Eugene, we have including how millimeters before the vertical line or after, and it's easy to say if touch or not. This situation, we can see the moment that the shoes touch the takeoff, in this moment, it's not a fail. And in this moment that they cross the vertical plane, he's not touching anymore the takeoff. So we cannot use this image to show the red flag, for example. So we need to consider this moment, and for this is a white flag. I'm sure that everybody have this figure. I recommend that you check about the correct way or the incorrect way to go outside landing area, the correct way or the incorrect way to do the takeoff. This yellow one answer one of the questions that we did in the beginning. So if we have on the left, like the situation, or in the right, but in a place that touch the takeoff board, it's not completely outside like this one. So in this case, if they not cross the vertical line, it's okay. If cross, sorry, it's a red one. And here we have another kind of figure that you usually works in your countries. And summarize of main reasons for a trial being declared a failure in the high jump. If an athlete takes off from both feet, and imagine we are talking about the high jump, because in high jump we have a rule that say that to do the jump, he needs to do the jump with just one foot. We don't have this rule for horizontal jumps or for the pole vault, but here we have. So if he takes off with both foot, it's a fall. If after the jump the bar doesn't remain on the supports, doesn't remain on pegs, because the action of the athlete whilstly jumping, okay, not after, whilstly jumping. If the athlete touches the ground, including the landing area beyond the white line, without first clearing the bar, the white line is drawn between points 3 meters outside of each uprights, right and left, to indicate the vertical plane of the near edge of the crossbar. If an athlete touches the crossbar or the vertical section of the uprights whilst running up without jumping, if the athletes exceed the time limit allowed of his or her trial, if the athletes breach the clothing or footwear rules, and I include here the bib numbers. Just a moment, please. If after the jump, the bar doesn't remain on the pegs because of the action of the athletes whilst vaulting, it's a fall in the pole vault 2. If an athlete touches with his body or with a pole the ground, including the landing area beyond the white 0 line, without first clearing the bar, the white line is drawn across the landing area in line with the back end of the planting box to indicate the vertical plane thereof. Where an athlete takes off and then returns to the runway without having otherwise infringed the rule by touching the ground beyond the 0 line, and the pole bend touches the landing area, the following interpretation should be applied. If the pole bend touch is beyond the 0 line, is a failure. But if the pole bend touch is before the 0 line, trial may be continued and the time needs to maintain, okay? Of course, if they don't have time to finish, the fall is about the time and not about this movement of the athlete. If the athlete, after leaving the ground, places the upper hand higher on the pole or the lower hand above the upper hand, it's a failure until even if the athlete during the vault steals or replaces the bar with his hands, like this, we start imagine how they can do that, but they do. So if they do this, it's a failure. If the athlete exceeds the limit time, And if the athletes breach the clothing or footwear or bib numbers. And another thing that we have in mind for jumps, and we are talking about all the jumps, they need to use one bib number or one name number. If they want to use two, no problems, but they need to use one in front or back. They decide where. And how to prepare the event. Imagine when we have many technology, including that technology, when we work as a referee, we need to check if they are working, or if we have a plan B or plan C if this doesn't work. And we need to check the position of the wind coach, if we have the windsock, if we have the seats for the chairs for the athletes, if we have chairs for the judges. About the measurement, we need to check 1 hour before, if it's from EDM or if it's in VDM. We need to check everything. We need to check if something happened with the takeoff, if it's easy to change, if we use the board of plasticine, if we have another one, or if we have many of them. In this case, in Cali, for example, they finish, the landing area is very close to the start of the 200 meters. Imagine how many sand we have in this place and how a danger it is when we have track events, for example, and we have the jumps. And here, it's a good pictures that we have students here, that when we are a referee, we cannot see just the takeoff. We need to do many things. And because of that, it's nice to have somebody taking care of the takeoff. For us, we can check here, but sometimes we need during the jumps, check another thing. And in this case, when we have a technology, it happens a lot, because if we need to recover this picture, we can see, or we can check with the video referee. And when the athletes cross and we don't have somebody that can help us, we need to do this. We need, for example, in the high jump, when we have track events, sometimes we need to help because we can decide about the clock. And we need to be present every moment and every place that we have something happening with this event. In the call room before, when we are coming with the athletes, during the event, and of course after the event, because some things happen and we need to check, and we need to stay 30 minutes after the end, after the announce of the event. We need to stay available for the competition 30 minutes, because if we have some appeal, we need to be there, okay? Note the following other matters relating the conduct of the pole vault that is very important, that the athlete may, they are not obliged, but they can use their own poles. In fact, it is not usual for organized to provide poles, so they may use their own poles, and they don't need to borrow their poles to another athlete. Okay, like in throwing events, for example, if I want my personal implement inside, everybody can use. In this case, not. But some competitions we saw some time ago, I can't remember, I think in Beijing, that one athlete from Brazil, she didn't find her pole inside the case, and another athlete said, if you want, I can borrow for you. But the athletes may use their own poles. They can wear gloves, of course they can. Place a substance on their hands, gloves, or the pole in order to get a better grip. Yes, they can. Remember, they don't need to use the same pole to another athlete. So in this case, that glues, if they want, they can use, no problem. Place uniform flat protective layers of tape At the grip end of the pole, rings, in fact, are not allowed, but they can use many layers to protect, many layers of tape to protect the pole. Place padding around the top of the box for additional protection. Place tape and or any other suitable material at the bottom end of the pole. Run outside the white lines marking the runway at any point. Touch the landing area with the pole, provided it's initially planted in the box. And of course, do in a correct way cross the bar. Athletes may not use another athlete's pole vault without their consent. Touch his or her pole if it's falling towards the bar to the uprights. Imagine here is the bar. So here is the pole. If the pole is coming in the direction of the bar, they cannot cross the bar and runs to protect the pole to not go to the bar, so they cannot do this. And if an athlete or anyone else touch the pole when it's falling towards the bar or uprights, in the direction of the uprights, and the referee believes that the bar would, as a result, have been dislodged, the vote shall be recorded as a failure. Why we are talking about that? Because sometimes the bar is here and the pole is here because it's not so high to touch the bar. And in this case, maybe this is a situation that justify that we can use, where is it? The referee believes that the bar would, as a result, have been dislodged. If an athlete's pole is broken during a trial, if he survives, sorry about the play, but we have many times happened this. Thanks God, nothing happens with the athletes, just with the poles. But if the pole breaks during a trial, the athlete shall be awarded a replacement trial. The original trial should not be regarded as a failure, and the time will be restarted at the beginning. Okay. Here we have a print of the video about the new world record, and it's open for comment. I would say thank you again for Atletismo Sudamericano and for ISCA, and for everybody that is here, again saying sorry about my English. I couldn't see anything in the chat. We have more 15 minutes, so if we have something to recheck, Suren.
No, that's okay. That was a very good presentation. Thank you, Claudia. So do you have any comments or anything you want to talk about? The floor is now yours.
Suren,
yes,
I have a, sorry, Suren.
Yes,
Go ahead. Jaime. Sometimes when we are teaching our young people about how to apply the rule about the time to do an attempt. By example, in high jump, yeah, we have 2 or 3 athletes. We have 1 minute and a half, right? But if we have 2 consecutive attempts, we have 2 more minutes, okay? So at the final, in addition, they only confuse if they use 3.5 minutes or 2 minutes for in the situation that there are consecutive attempts. Okay, this is okay, perfect.
Sorry, Jaime. When we have this kind of situations, usually we say, see which is more advantage for the athletes. For example, we have 2 and 3 athletes, okay? Imagine
Yep.
that we have three athletes. The first one got in the first attempt 1 high. The second athlete got at the first attempt this high. But the third athlete failed. So now is his trial again, okay? I agree?
Yeah. Perfect.
So,
Yeah.
until now, he had 1 minute and a half to do this attempt. But his second attempt in this high will be a consecutive trial. Are you agree?
Yeah. So we have to addition 2 times.
Not addition. Now it's a change of time. He has for the second attempt 2 minutes. Okay?
2 minutes.
2
Okay.
minutes. Okay? If he had a fail again and he needs another attempt, imagine that he's alone in the second attempt and now he's alone again in the third attempt of that high. So it's again a consecutive trial. So if it's a consecutive trial, he has 2 minutes to do this attempt. Okay? That's it? Your question?
Perfect. Perfect, Claudina. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Claudia. So any other questions?
Claudina,
No,
another
not-
question.
Just a
Sorry,
moment, Hector, can you ask her?
No, I wrote a WhatsApp message to you because I lost connection between the border. I was moving from Uruguay to Argentina. So I lost when we were talking about one situation, and I passed the WhatsApp to you. So
Okay, no problem. Hector, if you prefer, tomorrow we will have the same session, but in Portuñol, because like I don't talk in a perfect English, I don't talk in a perfect Spanish.
no,
In Espanol.
I traveled to Argentina to a master athlete competition,
Okay,
and I must be at the track at the hour of the presentation. So I prefer to show this one in English today.
okay.
So if it will be the same,
Can you
maybe if I
you
have
make
a question, I write.
okay, that situation of Cali, this one that happens me in Bogota?
No, that happened to me in Bogota. No, I wrote another through WhatsApp. Another.
Ah, okay, let me check.
No. You mentioned it. The athlete that were measuring in Cali. In Bogota in November, I was doing combined events, and in the long jump, they put I don't know how to name the laser point, and it's supposed they measure okay, and when I retired, the person that was watching the mark said I couldn't take the mark, and the person was cleaning the sand. So the same situation of Cali happened to me in Bogota. They gave me an extra attempt, and I did 4 attempts instead of 3.
Yeah, like I usually say, we are human and we make something wrong sometimes, and the technology too, not just human, but we need to be prepared to understand and to know what to do if something wrong happened during the competition. So the rules give us the possibility of to give a substitute trial when we have this situation. This is a possibility, okay? But you want to make another question, Hector?
Yes. Now I watched the WhatsApp, and you was showing about the situation that you have 9 athletes, and and 4 without mark. And I couldn't see which was the solution for this situation because I lost connection.
Okay, Hector, how many athletes had in this event that you are talking about? You have 8, 9?
The example you show, you have 9 athletes, but 9, but
Mhm.
one athlete was DNS.
Okay. So in
So
this
I don't know if you consider or not this athlete.
no, we don't consider, because in fact,
So
during
all the 8 passed to the
8,
second round.
yes,
Okay.
Okay.
Because I was putting the option A and 2 more person put the option B in the chat and I lost connection. And I say, why they are putting B? If
because of
Okay.
that, because we consider 8 athletes, in fact.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Hope to see you tomorrow in Portuñol.
Yeah,
not,
I
have a
hope.
great day.
You too. Jaime?
I was consider the another situation when we have only, you can show me again the time for attempt, please.
Of course, just a moment. Here?
Yeah. We have, by example, one athlete in high jump, correct?
Okay. We are talking about a combined event or individual one?
Individual one.
Okay, so we have 3 minutes for this athlete. And I
Yeah,
know
in
your
the first
question.
attempt.
I know your question. You are wonderful on this. Which one is better for this guy? 3 minutes or 2 minutes? 3. So in this case, he's alone. Of course, every single attempt will be consecutive, but he's alone. So we don't have 2 minutes in this case. We have 3 minutes because 3 minutes is better than 2. See, when we have 2 or 3, we have 1 minute and a half. And when we have a consecutive one, this is bigger than 1.5. So because of that, we use 2 minutes when we have 2 or 3 athletes. For one athlete, always 3 minutes. In the pole vault, the same. See that when we have 2 or 3 athletes, we have 2 minutes. But if during the event we have a case that is a consecutive trail, we will have 3 minutes for this attempt, for this consecutive trail, okay? But when this guy is alone, they will have 5 minutes and we not consider here. Because of that, the table of the combined events is a perfect one for us. We don't have this line for one athlete. We always use the consecutive trials or one athlete at the same line, okay?
Okay, Claudia. So I was talking about because many times some people doubt about that. So
yes,
we have to keep in our mind what is the best solution for the athlete because they are the stars and we are to help, sorry, to help what is the best for him or for they, okay?
yes, but remember, when the athlete is alone and it's the first attempt during all the event, so everybody finish the high jump, for example, and he will start now. The first time for him is 1 minute.
1 minute
for the first attempt. So after
even
always
he is alone, even he
yes,
is alone.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jaime. This question is very, very important for everybody. Somebody more? We
Thank you.
have. So I can say nice for everybody to stay here. This is a very interesting cases that we can discuss. If you have some situations, it's nice that you discuss with your with the judges in your country, or maybe I will make I don't know the term in English, but a provocation for Suran. If we can got a Telegram group, for example, because WhatsApp just 200 people, but I think Telegram we can more. Maybe we can have a place that all the judges in the world can be connected if they want to discuss some kinds of rules. If happens something in their competitions, I know that it's a very different competitions and different situations than high events, but we can be connected. Okay, so thank you again. Thank you, Suran. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Roberto, for being with us and helping us with the Zoom platform from ADC, the Atletismo Sudamericano. And tomorrow we will have the same, but in Portuguese. En español.
Claudia,
Tell me, Hector.
Claudia,
Bye.
yeah,
Bye bye.
I have another questions, but not about shams. Are because situations that we had in the test, and I kept with doubt because we got the result, but not we know which situations we did okay, which we failed. So what we should do with that? We should write an email with that question for the moment that you try the, for example, throws or something like that, or how do we proceed with those doubts?
Sorry, I couldn't understand the question.
Te lo digo en español.
See, Hector, it's about throws. It's nice that everybody has some questions. If you can send, Hector, in this case, can send for me in WhatsApp, I will send with Sura, and we can touch about situation in the throwing video conference. It's possible?
Okay. Okay.
Thank you again for everybody, and see you tomorrow, or see you in sometime in another town. Miguel, nice to see you. See you, Sandra.
Hey.
Ciao.
Ciao, thank you.
Bye,
Sandra.
Friends from
Bye-bye.
Atletismo Sudamericano for a great follow-up and a great hosting of the event. So see you all again tomorrow. Unfortunately, I won't be with you tomorrow because I'll be flying to Marrakesh. But Claudia will be, she will be here to, and Elena also for the Spanish presentation.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Thank you, Roberto, again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.